Hey Maddison, I think it's so cool that you're doing this project on Diabetic Alert Dogs. And your questions were so great that I thought, man, I want to answer them as completely as possible. But in order for me to do that, it was going to end up being a really, really long email. So I thought I would save us both a little time and I would answer your questions in this video. So that way you can kind of pick and choose what you want to use for your project and just make it a little bit faster and more efficient for you here. So your first question was, in your opinion, what are the pros and cons that Diabetic Alert Dogs have? And that's a really insightful question because there really are a lot of pros and cons to it. Obviously, a diabetic alert dog is not just like a piece of medical equipment, even though that's what they're classified as by the government. Obviously, they're not just something that if you decide you don't want to use it one day, you can stick it in the corner. There's responsibilities that come with having a diabetic alert dog. All the responsibilities that you have with a pet, like feeding and walking and letting them out to go to the bathroom and things like that, take place with the diabetic alert dog. And on top of that, you also have the responsibility of maintaining their training. They're not like a robot when they're done training, although they can sometimes kind of seem like that when they're out in public because they're doing their job so well, but you need to continue working with them, and that's kind of time consuming. Some of the pros obviously are that obviously the fact that the diabetic alert dogs, when they're properly trained, do an amazing job of alerting their owners to dangerous blood glucose level changes. And oftentimes they're faster than a lot of the medical equipment that's out there. They give an early warning that there's going to be a dangerous blood glucose level change, a dangerous high or a dangerous low. Obviously we focus a lot on those lows because those are the most life-threatening. So other pros, obviously for a lot of people, having a diabetic alert dog is also just nice to have that kind of companion all the time. So there's kind of an emotional level to having a service dog as well. Not to be confused with an emotional support animal. There's a difference between an emotional support animal and a service animal like a diabetic alert dog, but there is definitely like that emotional connection that comes from having a dog with you at all times. And so some of our clients see some real benefits from that as well. We see a lot of our clients have, if you're studying diabetes very much, you'll know what an A1C is. An A1C is kind of like an average of your blood glucose levels. We see a lot of our clients after they get a diabetic alert dog, their A1C number gets to a lot healthier range because the dog is helping them keep a lot tighter control, which is a huge long-term benefit for our clients. That's going to mean a lot better health overall for the length of their life. Cons, kind of another con is one of the things that you mentioned later. Obviously the price. Diabetic alert dogs can be very expensive, so that can be another con. In my opinion, what do I think would be more reliable for people with diabetes? A continuous glucose monitor or a diabetic alert dog, and why? So continuous glucose monitors are always improving, and so a few years ago we saw that our diabetic alert dogs that were really well trained were a lot more reliable than our continuous glucose monitors, but we are seeing improvements. My absolute favorite thing is to have a continuous glucose monitor working hand in hand with the diabetic alert dog. Each one kind of backs the other one up. A diabetic alert dog obviously can have a bad day. They're living, breathing, emotive beings, and they can have an off day just like you or I can. And so that can definitely affect their reliability as far as being able to alert. So with that being said, I like having that continuous glucose monitor as kind of a backup in the event that the dog has a bad day, misses a dangerous low or something like that. On the other hand, we also see the same thing happen. An improperly calibrated continuous glucose monitor can give false diagnosis as far as what your current blood glucose levels are, and we oftentimes have dogs alerting their owners, and the owner thinks, oh, well, the dog's wrong, it's alerting me when I'm not low. But sorry, the camera cut out there for just a second. So what I was saying is that the owners will feel like, hey, my dog's lying to me, they're alerting me because they think I'm low, but my CGM says I'm not low, and guess what? They end up doing a finger prick and finding out that they are low, that the dog was right and the CGM was wrong due to a bad calibration or just some other kind of malfunction. So like I said, I really like them working hand in hand as often as possible and backing each other up. So that's my ideal scenario there, is that the clients are going to be working with both of those to help manage their diabetes as well as possible. Let's see, your next question was, in your opinion, why do you think these dogs are so expensive to purchase? Are they maybe overpriced? I would say I have never seen an overpriced diabetic alert dog. I will say there are several organizations and companies out there that have been charged for fraudulent things because they're not actually training. But all of the dogs that I know that are going through proper organizations and stuff, and the trainers I know, honestly, for the most part, they're underpriced. Now, I'm going to tell you, there have been times that I've seen, or even with our own company in the past, selling dogs for $25,000 to $30,000, and you think, oh, that sounds huge, that's way overpriced. But believe it or not, these dogs sometimes have over 2,000 hours of training. They're in training with us. It's not a fast process. It takes about 1.5 to 2 years to train a diabetic alert dog. So you think $30,000 sounds like a lot, but oftentimes I've sold dogs for $30,000 before and actually did not make money. I lost money. Or sometimes we sold dogs for that much, and because of little complications that came up with training or things along the way, we ended up paying ourselves less than minimum wage. As crazy as that sounds. So the reason why they're so expensive is because it takes a lot of specialized, focused training. You can't just be a basic, dog trainer that just knows some of the ropes. You have to be really into this. You have to have spent a lot on your own education in order to be able to train diabetic alert dogs properly. Now, we have altered our training program some now to what we call our cycle training method, which you could watch that video on our website that talks more about that. So we've been able to bring the cost of training down considerably to more like $10,000 to $15,000, but that's because we're having the owners be a part of the process from day one, and they're actually taking the dog home with them for a lot of the training and stuff. So the dogs aren't just living with us for 2 years like what it used to be with our diabetic alert dog programs. So we've been able to bring the cost down, but still $10,000 to $15,000 is a lot of money for a lot of folks, but that's still not us making tons of money. $10,000 to $15,000 is still us putting in tons and tons of hours of training into that dog and not really paying ourselves a whole lot to do it. I actually make more money training just pet dogs in obedience classes and stuff per hour than what I make working with service dogs. But because I love working with service dogs, I want to help as many people as possible, I train a lot of service dogs still because of that reason. If money is a problem for a family who really wants a diabetic alert dog, can they just train a dog themselves? If so, will the dog be able to do its job just as good as a professionally trained dog? There are cases out there of folks that have done a good job training their diabetic alert dog. However, the vast majority of dogs that I've met that have been owner trained are not very reliable. They do a lot of false alerting, which is where they just paw their owner and hope that they're going to get rewarded for it because they think that, hey, this is what they want me to do. We get a lot of the dogs that will miss alerts because they haven't done enough foundation training. One of the biggest problems we see with owner-trained dogs is folks that didn't take their time to really do the foundation stuff. They hurried up the process and they're like, oh yeah, it only took me 2 or 3 months to get my dog to do this. And in 2 or 3 months, if you hurry it up, yeah, you might get a dog that can alert occasionally, but they're not going to alert very well under distraction. They're not going to alert very well when they're waking up from a sleep, doing night alerts, things like that. So to answer your question, a family can do what we call owner training. However, I highly recommend that any family that does that works with a professional from the beginning, at least doing some private lessons, getting some coaching and guidance along the way. Because if you just try to do it yourself, most of the time I see people that end up really frustrated and with a dog that really isn't doing as well as it should be or could be had they had more professional help. So anyway, Madison, I think that was all your questions. I hope I answered them well for you. I love training diabetic alert dogs. I love teaching people about training diabetic alert dogs. So if you have any other questions for me, feel free to let me know. Hopefully you do a great job on your project and you get a good grade. And if this is some kind of project where you make some kind of PowerPoint or anything like that, I'd love to see the final project when you're all done with it. Email it over to me and let me see what you came up with. And hope you, good luck on your project and hope this helped, and we'll talk to you later.